Hi everyone and welcome to this session on Research Impact. I'm Julie Bayley, I'm Director of Research Impact Development at the University of Lincoln, and I am delighted to join the College of Social Science showcase events talking about impact at the university, but particularly impact within social science. So I've got some slides to share with you, and please offer questions into the chat function and they'll be fielded to me at the end. Apologies for any technical issues. I have a few my end, but hopefully we will be absolutely fine. So if I can just share my screen with you. So we're here today talking about impact at the university and celebrating our impact across the university. And I think it's really, really important to know that when we're talking about impact, just for those of you who aren't as familiar, we're talking about those benefits from our research into the real world. So this really kind of, basic diagram here, but what we're talking about is that we do our research at the university full of our kind of commitment and passion and all of those things, and it has a benefit outside those academic walls. It is felt by people outside of the university landscape, society, economy, etc. So that's what we're talking about with impact all the way through this. Now, I want to start this conversation looking at the REF because it is probably the biggest marker of impact we have across the university. Now, for those of you who don't know it, the Research Excellence Framework, and the links are there should you wish to see it, is essentially a kind of 7-year-ish cycle of assessment of UK higher education research quality, and it has a direct bearing on the money we get through from the government. And it's a process of expert review. So there are 34 subject-based units of assessment. So, we've got allied health, we have maths, we have, archaeology, engineering, all sorts of topics, and they sit across 4 panels. You don't need to worry about the detail on that, but it's just worth you knowing. Now, the way the REF process works is that we submit our kind of a portfolio of work in 3 areas: our output, so what research outputs we've got, articles, books, that kind of thing; what our environment is, so what structure we have for supporting research; and impact. And the impact part is worth 25% of the overall score. Now, we submitted our return for this in March, just gone, after an extension because of COVID, and we will get the results next year. And the sector kind of sits awaiting all of this. Now, for the College of Social Science, we had across the whole university 50 impact case studies in total, and 16 of those came from social science, and they sat under 7 units of assessment. So a really, really impressive show from the college. And the first thing I want to say before I go any further is an absolutely huge congratulations both to the case study authors, and I'll give you a flavour of those cases in a moment, but also those who supported them, because quite often there's a kind of an invisible army of people who support these cases. So for those of you who worked on the cases, authored them, gathered evidence, did anything on those cases, it is an absolute thanks to you for all your hard work, particularly with the pressures of COVID and teaching and all of those things. So just a massive thank you to everybody. Now, our cases went in the 7 units of assessment listed here. I won't go through them in huge detail, but we have some that kind of sit within the health, panel A, and some which sit more in social science. So in the next few screens, I'll give you a headline flavour of the cases that went into each of those units. Now, this is really top level kind of summaries of things, and I can't in any way do justice to the amount of work and the scale of effort and the depth of this work, but just so you can see how incredible the work is coming from colleagues in the college. Under Unit of Assessment 3, which is kind of allied health, we had 3 cases which looked at care for people within either kind of public health or within the ambulance care pathway, and work within CARU led to new patient-centered outcome measures for pre-hospital care. So ambulances used to be measured on just kind of response times and things like that, and this body of work has broken down that set of performance objectives and say what matters to patients, how can we improve the markers, and how can we inject these into how things work. And those outcome measures have been implemented across England, the US, the Middle East. There's a really, really incredible depth of change there. And we also have work on flu vaccines. So many of you will have seen, in recent years, the flu vaccination campaigns. Lincoln's work, Kari's work is central in there, cited in the guidance, in NICE guidance, and has actually changed national and international policy. It features, it frames, it influences how this all works. And work around insomnia. Insomnia is a huge burden on so many people, and can be a long-term thing for many adults. And research done within this team has changed policy and guidance. It's led to better and new training for our healthcare staff, and even changes in the prescriptions of benzodiazepines and things like that. And also some online therapists, direct-to-patient therapists to help people with insomnia. So, just on that headline screen, an incredible body of work that really is making a difference in healthcare. In our psychology unit, we have 3 projects. Again, I can't do any level of justice to the scale of work here, but we have an incredible interdisciplinary project here on social and evolutionary psychology, looking at the relationships between Barbary macaques and the kind of the human-animal relationship with these, and the damage really that the human visitor traffic is doing to their population. And that body of work has changed some international trade laws and increased the protection status of these monkeys. And you'll see one of the things about Lincoln Impact is it's very multi-level, and their work has led to changes in government action plans for how to help conservation of these monkeys. And then as a kind of parallel line, has informed how tourism companies, how the tourist industry advises people to interact with wildlife when they're overseas, to make sure it's sustainable. We have under psychology also some work on gambling, digital gambling, and the kind of the harm that brings, and particularly things around fixed odds betting terminals, and things that are really very, very pertinent to the psychological well-being, as well as kind of economic damage for people. And the work done here has been cited in key policy briefings. So there's a whole weight of activity that goes into bringing to bear this research into the policy landscape, and we can see through that process the contribution of that work, a legislation change on minimum bet size. So incredibly important changes. Also within Unit of Assessment 4, we have some incredibly important work around child sexual exploitation, and supporting our legal colleagues, our child protection colleagues, and so forth, to support that work. And research done here has really brought to bear how these offending pathways occur, and what the kind of what the treatment needs are. And there's now a new treatment planning tool that's being used. It's being used to help staff decide how to treat patients, and also the training for staff themselves. So an incredibly important area of work. When we get towards law, we have 2 cases here, and some of the cases I'm clustering together, but we have 2 here that really speak to this sense of value and respect and ethics, both in policing and in environmental rights. So within the police, work here is focused very much on victim support and kind of the procedural safeguards that sit around that. And through that work, particularly with Lincolnshire Police, that's led to changes in how the police apply their policy. What is their policy? How do they practice? How do they make disclosure more inclusive, bringing more men into the process of disclosure? And in environmental rights, looking at the kind of legal standards around that, and how understanding the damage caused by environmental crimes can support better policy, better support for victims. And through that, there's new policy, there's changed networks, and it's being brought into toolkits for training and learning. And I hope you can hear in my voice how incredibly proud I am to have even had a side hand in any of this, because the work here is so important. Within Unit of Assessment 9, our politics and international studies, I've clustered here 2 of our case studies because they speak to a very common and incredibly important principle, which is about widening voices in the parliamentary process. The parliamentary process, this process of bringing witnesses in to give evidence, to design policies and so forth, has historically not been the most diverse arena. And work within this unit has led to recommendations to the House of Commons, and they've been adopted. It's led to the establishment of a new petitions committee, and looking at how to better respond to petitions coming into the system, more diversity, changes to the selection process. And that's not just in the UK, that's international. So really very tangible changes. Work within our social work policy, and some of the work I just spoke about actually crosses into here, but I'm just featuring this one here, which is very important work around violence against women and girls. So this is international work, some incredible research underneath this, looking at the nature of, the definitions of violence against women and girls, to see how change can be can be brought in. And this work has led to changes in the definition of domestic violence within the family justice system. That definition opens the doors for people to get their rights, for things to be, for justice to be applied. And it shapes legislative recommendations internationally, professional understanding, public awareness, all the things that need to be wrapped around that to make a difference of there. And it is a real credit to this work that it's managed to achieve that. Within education, we have two cases, and a real forerunner in the world of academic freedom. This work has explored not only the history of academic freedom, but also the kind of constitutional and legal protection across European states. So, what is academic freedom and how is it protected? And that suite of work has led to expert reports into the Council of Europe, which, through a series of iterations and votes and approvals, has led to this an unprecedented recommendation to create a new convention on academic freedom, or a kind of extension to the human rights agenda. But essentially, a protection is coming around all of that, and this work has been absolutely pivotal in that. We also have work around the cooperative higher education agenda, and many of you will recognise the student as producer line. This is work that it has long roots in Lincoln and shapes so much of what we do. And that body of work has been transformative in the thinking around alternative HE provision, and it features in party policy, and it's you can see the threads of it really taking hold in bringing new cooperative ventures on board in UK and internationally. And we are on the cusp of seeing the first cooperative university following this work. And I should say I've not got all the cases here, because some of our cases have some level of kind of confidentiality on them. But within sports, we have one I can feature, which is on basically police fitness and fitness mentors. So work done in the School of Sport and Exercise Science on community-based health initiatives has been translated into the police sector to help police staff improve their fitness, but also improve their kind of overall quality of life and well-being. And this new fitness program, you can see improved physical health, and it's got a range of awards. So that's a really whistle-stop congratulations to those cases. And I'm aware that I have not done justice to all of them, but it's this high level appreciation for them is where we need to be, certainly now, and then we'll see the ref results come in. But irrespective of the ref results, I hope you can share my sense of pride for the authors, for those who've contributed to those cases, because of how important it is. Across those cases and across the cases we have throughout the university, we have a very common profile of how we work. We are a needs-led university. That doesn't mean we don't do blue skies thinking, but we are about connecting with our region, our nation, looking internationally to fulfill needs. And we do that by being kind of connected with those agencies, those people, being collaborative and co-producing work. And also we do this at a kind of multi-level, in a multi-level way. We don't just go into policy, we go to policy and practitioners, and we go wherever the need is there, and we are interdisciplinary. We work in a way that gets the problem solved. Now, we know as a sector we need to get far better at that, but the roots for Lincoln are certainly there. Now, I want to look at the future. Now, it's fair to say for many of us, although we can and should absolutely celebrate that set of case studies, that REF has not been easy for many of us, and certainly for me and my impact kind of peers. We are concerned that REF has flavoured impact away from what it really is. And impact is not case studies, impact is purpose, impact is meaning, impact is the benefit outside the academic walls from what we do within them. So I want to think now kind of towards the future. Now, you will know, I'm sure, many of these things, but just to bring them back into your thinking, Lincoln is a civic university. It is a a badge of honor we wear with pride. A civic university is essentially locating ourselves within our civic structure, within our region, within the community in which we're based. And it's not just about saying what is a university good for, it's also about what it's good at and how we can best connect with our communities to make a difference. And that, for me, is showcased all the way through all the work we do in impact, because it's connections, it's people, and it's making a difference. We also have, and if you haven't seen this, please go look, because it's such a pivotal piece of work. A manifesto brought out over a year ago now by Professor Mary Stewart and Liz Schutt, to say we need to be permeable. As a university, it's no good just to sit there kind of with our walls around us and not be accessible to people. So this manifesto was a bit of a game changer in the sector, to say, actually, we need to put down our walls in every way, system, policy, technologies, communities, everything, to open it up so we are not only that we are more accessible, but we actually are engaging outside of our kind of academic walls. So we have at our heart as an institution the absolute right roots, the right anchors to do impact, irrespective of things like the ref. Now, when it comes to the ref, we're in interesting times, because we don't know what's going to happen. There is a consultation phase at the moment. So this is obviously this talk is happening in the middle of 2021. We are in the midst of a consultation. This is not to say the ref will go. It's a consultation to say, how is assessment done best, and how can it be done to reduce the burden on people to do this. So any of you who are involved in ref will know the kind of scale of administration behind it. So it's a kind of watch this space call, really, to say, let's see what happens. There is no suggestion that impact will be disappearing, and I'm delighted by that, because although we can have challenges with ref, it does give us a means to showcase the meaningful effects we have, and as a civic institution, that is really at the heart of what we do. But we also have the Concordat for the advancement of knowledge exchange in higher education. So the knowledge exchange framework, the knowledge exchange Concordat, which is a kind of a set of principles, a set of measures around how, as an institution, we are able to connect with our environment, not just on research, but on all different areas. And we also have, and we're incredibly lucky within Lincoln to have Pearl, the public engagement unit, to really support and structure the connection between our research and our kind of engagement with the public and the wider world. So we have, a number of things in the mix that we're not quite sure of. We do know there is an absolute appetite to connect further, and I think it leaves us in a brilliant position to continue on the pathway we're already on. Now, as part of that kind of move to next, we have recently kind of formally opened, but it's been running quietly for quite a while, the Lincoln Impact Literacy Institute. So just take a step back. I have worked for quite a long while in impact, having been a behavioural scientist, a health psychologist for some time before that. And what is unbelievably clear when you look across the sector and the international sector is that people so often are not given time to understand what impact is. And that's not just academics, that is funders, it is managers, it is publishers, it's everyone in the ecosystem, because it's been brought to bear with such kind of financial rewards or penalties that I think we've had to move so quick. We haven't really got a handle on it in many areas, and that's in no way criticism of people. I think that's just a comment on how fast paced this came in for many of us. And so what's needed is to bring up the level of understanding and literacy, purely to let people make good choices and empower them to make good choices, and also to push back on any of the genders we think aren't fair around impact, and to build the literature, build the evidence, do all of those things you would want to do in an academic scenario to make things good. So we are incredibly lucky at Lincoln that our senior managers have saw that this, seen that this is a good way to go, and I'm incredibly proud to be able to lead it. So Lily is essentially the heart of that. It will be overseeing kind of internal training and so forth. We're still discussing all of that, and obviously there'll be more comms about that. But from its external lens, it is there to call out things. It is there to, share practice. It's there to share opportunities to do impact and those kind of things. So I absolutely invite you both to obviously go and look at the website, but just get in touch. If there's ways that we can, use this engine to do good things, support you in your work, I'd be absolutely delighted. So please do go and have a look. And just as a flavour of what that institute is already doing, I'm commissioned by a couple of external bodies, and what that's allowing us to do is really inject good literate thinking into some of the kind of sector tools that are around there, and how people do things. So we have here, so Emerald Publishing, which is the top right screen here. I'm commissioned by them, and they have just launched, based on the impact literacy work, a new set of impact services. So these are tools, products, guides to help people not only plan their impact, but also build the skills for impact and develop healthier kind of institutional strategies. And there are a range of free resources there as well. Everything's available through Lily if you want to have a look. But also working with funders, so working with the National Institute for Health Research, developing for them kind of a suite of searchable toolkit dashboards. So if you've ever looked into doing impact, what you'll find is there is a mammoth amount of resources out there, but it can be really hard to work out how best to use them. So this is really a starting point to say, well, here they are, here's a way to select between them. So, I mean, you can see just in those nuggets there, this sense of projecting outwards what we know is good in impact and what doesn't work in impact, and building tools, interventions, etc. As for many of us as social scientists, that's kind of our day job. It's wonderful to have Lincoln as the engine behind that. So I kind of reached the end of my slides, and I'll check in on questions in a moment. And I'm aware it's been a kind of whistle stop through things, partly because I just wanted to share with you the incredible work colleagues are doing, and hopefully the energy for that comes across and you can share it. I really hope you can, and again, my thanks to the authors. But also because impact shouldn't be one of those things you just feel you have to sit down and do. It has energy. It is something incredible when you can change something in people's lives. So I am very, very hopeful that you can kind of take the seeds of what's said here and celebrate within social science, and also think about the future. And certainly for Lincoln, the future is taking forward all of those good things and really making sure we keep a focus on this needs-led and collaborative research. That isn't, I should say, at the expense of exploratory research. We need that. We need the building blocks. It's just to say that we very much honour and value that kind of connected work with our society as well. We need to make sure we have a healthy and impact literate culture. And that's not a suggestion that we don't. It's just a kind of, a strategic point, and it's something that comes from my heart really, which is I've seen so much bad practice around the sector that we are in an incredible position to be, an exemplar of how to do this well. Obviously, we have a need for income, so supporting staff in bidding is key to all of this, and also making sure that we are flying a very proud flag, and that our reputation for impact as an institution rides high. So both in the impact we have and the kind of impact leadership, the literacy and so forth. So we have very much aspirational plans around this, but they're all achievable because of the bedrock of work that's already been done by colleagues. So if while you're listening to this, you're hearing things you want to take forward, there are a number of ways to do so. So within the College of Social Science, you have Steve Corbett, who's there, who's impact manager, who can absolutely field your queries and speak to you about things and so on. Within the research office, we have Anne Jolly, who's the impact development officer, and she will also be able to speak with you about things. Or you can come direct to me. Either I'm Director of Impact for the University, but also with my Lily hat on, and I will happily speak to anyone who wants to speak about these things. So thank you very much for your time on that, and I will close my screen down and see if there are any questions. So there's a question on there, thank you, Steve, so about a note that if the REF 2021 system remains our underpinning research for future impact studies may have already been done. Absolutely. So there are so many kind of eligibility points within the REF process around dates of eligible research and dates of eligible impact and so forth. Until we get the updated guidance, we won't know precisely what that is. But Steve's point here is that some of the research might fall before the dates that they allow for. So we have to kind of check that in. My advice for any of you doing any of this stuff is just keep going with things, and we will work out the timestamps as they come. If you're unsure, come contact one of us and we will see what we can do to help you. I don't know if there's any other questions. That might be the only one. We'll give it a second. If there aren't any more, that's fine. You can always contact any of us offline. The purpose of this chat really was to just celebrate what we're doing in Impact and make sure that you can see where the avenues are and you can find yourself in Impact and celebrate what you're doing and what your colleagues are doing. So I don't believe there's any more questions. So I will say at that point, thank you very much. Good luck, and I hope to speak to you soon. Bye-bye.